My name's Danny Kennedy. I'm the CEO of New Energy Nexus. I have the great privilege of running a team of 120 some people around the world supporting startups to succeed. Diverse entrepreneurs driving innovation, building equity into the global clean economy. And it's just a privilege to be in this role because I get to work with people like this. Give it up for Ajaita, Leandro, who you're about to meet, and also all the starters and founders and entrepreneurs and startup team members that are here in the halls, the Third Derivative crew, the Aussies that have showed up in force at this Verge. It's what will really make us succeed in these climate solutions. So we're going to have a fantastic chat about that, and in particular, how Asia is critical to the passage we're going through, this decade of deployment, this decisive decade on the climate issue. And I want to introduce another leader. We'll come back to Ajaita in a second, but Leandro Leviste is the CEO of Solar Philippines, which is probably the biggest solar company you've never heard of, doing incredible work in that small country of just 100 million people or so. And just today had some incredible news, which I thought actually, Leandro, you should share, because I think what you texted me, the Manila newspaper ran an article today saying that it was a 4,500 megawatt hour project you've just signed a deal with Meralco, the Manila utility for, which from my knowledge is the biggest solar farm in the world. Is that right, Leandro?
Could be. So we're supplying 850 megawatts of mid-merit from 8 a.m. to 9 p.m. from a 3.5 gigawatt, 4.5 gigawatt hour solar battery project that is 60 kilometers north of Manila.
So for all you geeks out there, you know what a big deal that is, right? I mean, this is solar and storage at a scale which isn't yet installed anywhere, to my knowledge, in the world. Maybe there's gigawatts, but not 4 gigawatt hours being supplied. And the cost, Leandro, is lower than coal or gas delivery in the Philippines?
Yes, so it's a fixed tariff of around 10 US dollar cents per kilowatt hour, which is around 20% lower than the same utility's current purchases of coal and gas.
So again, just to try to translate, perhaps, you know, the fact is that the Philippines, which is not often in the conversation as cutting edge, leading the world, is leading the world in solar and storage. And that's sort of the impact that Solar Philippines has had. I think Leandro started about 8 or 9 years ago. And every time I catch up with him, it's sort of like, oh, you've done 250 megawatts. Oh, you've done a gigawatt. Oh, you've got 10 gigawatts of contracts in hand to build by 2025. Is that right?
Around that much by 2026, 2027. And like you said, the Philippines is really a few years ahead of, I think, adoption of these technologies because of the high cost of power in island geographies like ours.
Right. And so give us a sense of the impact that has, perhaps by what would happen otherwise. You know, if you don't build these 10 gigs of solar and storage, you know, which again, 10 gigawatts, 4 years ago, we would have laughed about that scale, but here we are. What happens in the Philippines?
The resource plans of the utilities that are procuring this power are themselves acknowledging that these new renewable supplies are replacing obsoleting coal and gas plants. And if we are not able to deliver this new supply, then they're going to need to temporarily run on diesel while waiting for new coal and gas plants that will need to run for at least another 20 years.
And how many gigawatts of gas could be built? Because the Philippines doesn't have much gas today. What would that look like?
That's right. They're actually estimating how many more gas plants they're going to need to build. This 3.5 gigawatt solar plant that we are due to deliver for this offtake is directly replacing an 850 megawatt mid-merit, which would have been supplied by gas. We have another contract for an approximately 1.8 gigawatt solar battery system that would replace a 200 megawatt coal power plant. So the I think story of renewable energy is worldwide, but the direct replacement of solar and storage with coal and gas is, I think, better illustrated by the Philippine example, but hopefully can be done in other countries in the near future.
Amen. And this is the front line. That's what we're trying to draw out here, is that, you know, 20,000 women entrepreneurs that Ajaita has trained over the last decade and that bit, growing to, millions, we hope. Gigawatts of solar and storage being installed in the Philippines. This is the opportunity space that we have before us. And what I want to come back to you, Ajaita, with is what excites you about this? I mean, it's such a powerful story, such an incredible speech you just gave. How do you keep going? It's been 18 years since you've begun on this journey.
Yeah. So obviously the American accent is quite obvious, but I moved to India 18 years ago and have been working in rural markets. So for me, it's about the economies of scale, right? At the end of the day, we can talk about doing a lot of work in the global north as much as we want, but when we're talking about billions of people, and you're talking about billions of people as markets, there's massive opportunity to scale, there's massive opportunity to innovate, there's massive opportunities to be able to make money, right? And so what's been interesting for us is that when we invested in 20,000 women entrepreneurs, we got access to literally millions of customers at a market, and we've crossed like $50 to $100 million in revenue because we understood them as customers. And I think that what we're realizing is the larger the platform becomes, so from 20,000 to 1 million women to 100 million families, you have power. So when I go into the room in the last couple of days and I meet corporates, I go, how can we help you deliver your carbon emission reduction in a way that actually we can do better than anyone else, right? Because we have billions of people that we can influence.
100%, like the scale idea that the only place we can really have scale is the mega cities of Asia, like Manila, the masses at the base of the pyramid in India. This is this opportunity. And so how do you get heard and received? Do the corporates say, oh my God, you're right, that's how I do what I need to do? Has that been your experience?
It's mixed. I think that so exciting sectors, I would say, are absolutely in circular economies and waste management. So I think the plastics piece is a really big one. We're seeing a lot of interesting corporates that are recognizing that they were responsible for creating the garbage, and now we have to clean it. And so, when you work on a massive supply chain, you're able to actually take advantage of that. So that's a big one. I think the second, is also around carbon emission reduction in general, right? So, the power of 100 million women switching over to organic farming is, we're talking like, gigawatts of carbon emission reduction, which everyone wants to purchase. So I do see an opportunity here. I think the challenge that I see is that we're perceiving the Global South as a poverty lens and like a charity lens versus understanding that we're actually the market creators.
100%. And we'll come back to that theme in a small ad break here. Ajaita and I will do a roundtable at 12:15 on dignified lives everywhere with that approach. But going to you, Leandro, the same kind of question. How, back of the envelope, I'm hearing you need about $10 billion by 2026 or something in that ballpark to do this work that you want to do. How are the foreign investors looking at your project pipeline?
Well, the construction of the projects will require big ticket sizes, but the role of our company is to develop the projects and then have larger power companies finance the construction. And it happens in this part of the world that it's mostly local power companies that own the power plants. And that's part of why the development of new technologies have been not as fast as they could have been. And if there were more foreign investment in renewables in Southeast Asia, then perhaps this revolution would be a few years further along.
Are you getting any pickup yourself? I know you had the most successful IPO on the Philippine Stock Exchange last year, but then this year with all the headwinds and horrible foreign exchange issues surrounding inflation and so on, it's probably been a tougher go. How's it looking?
Yeah, so as far as our developing of the projects is concerned, we are fortunate that we are able to get by because the fundamentals of a renewable energy project are on balance, not worse off, if not even better off than they were prior to this year. And the project investments are mostly handled by local power companies, but this is all factored in to the slower than what one would wish adoption of solar and storage in the Philippines. where if there were not just 100% subscription to the projects that we are planning, but an oversubscription from the huge potential for even more supply coming in, then the, of course, benefits of renewable energy could be better accessed by the country.
Absolutely. And we'll go to sidebar questions in just a second, but I'll have the same one for both of you to finish my bit, which is if wishes were fishes, you just mentioned what you might wish. What would you want right now? And I'll ask you the same thing about your 100 million women ideas. But Leandro, you first.
Well, we can't really complain about where we are compared to what the market was just 3 years ago, and what I think others much more pessimistically expected from all of our very idealistic ideas of the energy transition. But of course, the global financial markets improving would also help accelerate the push, as they were only very recently, and hopefully will continue to be so in the near future.
Ajaita?
So we're in this really interesting nexus of announcing investing in 100 million women. And for me, the numbers are amazing because it's actually only like $1.50 per woman, right? Like we're raising $150 million to invest in 100 million women. So like the numbers are stupidly small, but the impact is massive. But the other point that I was going to bring up is that the way the technology and the movement of women is working right now is that it's not just about India. Actually, we can do this across the globe. And I think the ideal ask is bring in money quickly and let's change the narrative so we understand that women are opportunities and not charities.
Sidebar, what have we got?
Yeah, thank you so much for this conversation. It's truly inspiring. And thank you everyone for submitting questions. So of course, the climate crisis, addressing the climate crisis takes a different shape in every part of the world. What lessons can America learn from the work that's going on in Asia?
Sure. I mean, I think Leandro's going to obviously talk about the realities of what can happen in solar storage. You know, I remember coming to a Green Biz event right after Katrina in New Orleans, and I was giving the keynote there, and I didn't understand why. And I realized it's because actually the biggest lessons that I think that America or the global North can learn from Asia is that we actually already have climate resilient, adaptive like realities. We understand migration, we understand job creation, green jobs, like all these trends that we're talking about. Actually, Asia's already implemented a lot of them. And the complexities that come with Asia in terms of the market opportunities are where we can probably help shape a different way of where capital gets invested, where jobs can be created, where we look at ways to also survive climate calamities, because we've been through it kind of all.
Absolutely. Leandro?
I think that solar installation forecasts everywhere are way underestimating what they will actually be in a decade, because to use the example of the Philippines, it was not in the Department of Energy's forecast that there would be 10 gigawatts of solar by the middle of this decade in the Philippines. And when it has become apparent that there will be, then they've just adjusted their forecast. For the world, I see forecasts in the range of 3 to 4 terawatt hours by 2030. And in terms of what I think people will say is economic, it should definitely be much more. But the analysts say that, oh, the supply just can't get built in time. But where there's a will, there's a way. And I think the people in this conference will be able to empathize with that from their own experience over the past decade of unprecedented solar growth. And I think that's the opportunity specifically for project developers, because if people are not planning for this much, and there are people that get into position for when it happens, then there could definitely be a lot more upside than what people are baking in for the growth of the solar market.
100%. That's it. These are the people making it happen, people. You see the IEA out today with another scenario plan, forecasting a complete shift from what they said last year because of entrepreneurs like these, because of the entrepreneurs that you'll see on Verge Accelerate. Give it up for them. Thank you all very much for being here, for doing what you do. Thank you, Leandro. Thank you, Ajaita.